Welcome to the inner world of emotions.
And such a beautiful film. So many thoughts were running through my mind as I was watching the film. I think I spoke to the two. Well, I know I spoke to the two of you after the film in Santa Monica. I knew there was going to be a lot of emotions, um, and just to witness it within my own body, it really told me a lot about how easy we could feel a sense of belonging through um, being with individuals who have similar stories, who can experience the level of empathy to pull on certain heartstrings that resonate quite clearly in real life experiences. So, I want to start with this question directed towards you, Max. So the show that I have, I think I mentioned, is the inner world of emotion, and we have a segment called "Do You Feel Me?" And the purpose of the show is to help individuals who struggle with identifying with their emotions, um, despite the fact that we all have emotions and we all can feel.
Yeah,
And knowing that feeling is real, sometimes it's hard to put into words just because of the impact that shows up in reality. Um, and so it seems as if we don't have access to those emotions, but we all know that, well, not all of us, though, we have mirror neurons. And when we say things out loud, we have the first thing called sound, and sound is a feeling, it's vibration. Um, and we want to know, Max, in your experience while you were on set, while you were filming,
yeah.
um, what emotion just kept coming um, to mind for you? What did you experience in that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest thing that hit me in the process of working on this film was just like that deep sense of belonging that these people find within the community that exists on that bleeding edge within the world of Ultra. You know, it's something we've talked about um, a bit on the process of making this film and bringing it to the world, but I think really that is like the core of what you're getting at is like we all need a sense of place in the world. It's something that I think every single individual struggles to hold on to for ourselves. And this world of ultra is an extreme example, like any extreme sport. But um, when you push yourself beyond your understanding of the world around you, beyond those edges of your own comfort, and you do it in companionship with peers who also seek that edge and understand the process of finding it, um, you're going to be able to find a sense of belonging and community that doesn't exist in any other ambition that I've observed.
Hmm. I would want to say that that feeling that you're describing is so difficult to find in other spaces
Yeah,
because of just how um, how challenging it is to know how everyone else can share that same
sure.
stage. Do you think it has something to do with mobility?
I
Because there's
mean,
so much motion.
I think that, running is just the venue for this story. And Aisha and I can probably both stand behind this statement, and that, you know, what we hope is that, this isn't necessarily a story about inspiring people to go run. Although it can certainly be that to many people. Um, it's more about finding that edge in whatever you do
Mm.
in the world, whatever you pour yourself into, whatever you believe in. That's part of it is like looking at something that feels impossible or seems improbable, uh, and believing that you can take that step and find solid ground. And that is really what I'm talking about here is like doing that, finding that belief and doing it in companionship.
Mm.
Um, it breeds this sense of belonging, even if it's in small groups of people. It's often is the case. It's one of the more beautiful things you can find in life, I think, and it is scary. It's courageous to do in whatever venue you choose to do it in, but it's one of the most valuable things you can do, I think.
I've never done an ultra marathon, but I mean that just seems like way on the other side of the world for me. Um, just I'm just at awe and inspired, and also in admiration towards those who take those steps of determination and courage to do it. I've done many marathons. I think one year I ran 50 marathons a couple years ago. And I feel that I love that sense of belonging when you're just with a group of people in the morning, 4, 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, and you can just feel the morning dew coming down. And I mean, it's just so beautiful just to experience because it's so many things that are happening without actually having to put words to.
Yeah.
And feeling is just it's enlivening. It's you could just feel the sense of peace in that state. Um, so I would also say that that peace is like what you're describing. It's just that togetherness that just happens, both in one piece and in peace in some sort of way or another. And I just kept thinking about this, and I want to direct this question to you, Aisha, because Max went to freedom. I mean, went to belonging. And for me, I was just thinking, okay, so I know I spoke with Aisha about freedom and belonging, and I was going to merge those two together. But since you kind of already took the word belonging, I'm just going to go ahead and pose the question to Aisha around freedom. That freedom that you were describing um, in the Q&A after the showing, the screening, um, why freedom? What does freedom? I mean, it's becoming such a, or has become such a trite word,
For
yet
sure.
it's a beautiful word and a word that has its own intimacy with each person.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely when, in the past, like I think there's different levels to it, right? It can be a physical feeling, it can be like an emotional. I think when I was a kid, it was truly a combination of all of the things because um I think as children already all of us when we're children, we there are people making decisions for us. We are, in a sense, this very vulnerable, like, I think of us as like these little sponges, then we're just
Yeah.
kind of, um, we are in this vulnerable state and at the will of whomever is our caretaker or whoever is. And so for that point in me, that freedom was literally a physical and emotional and some may say an escape. I would say it was a form of protection. Um, because I think escape feels like you're running away, you're not trying to find this like this actual protection and
Yeah,
um
like something that exists in each person.
exactly. And I think yeah, I think this sense of like I see freedom and now and when we talk about running and move like I see movement as this like very expressive form of a way of like existing in the space, right? And I think even the sense like Max was just talking about belonging, I think as humans, like it is in our genetic makeup, in our like to feel a sense of belonging. Like
Yeah.
you go back thousands of years and that's like it is so important to feel that. And then to combine this sense of freedom and autonomy to be able to go and make choices to, again, decide to potentially run that ultra or tell that story. Or again, it's not necessarily about running, but about having the courage to go and change something in your life or take that leap of faith. Um,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah. So real because it's I think really appreciate what you're saying, Aisha, because in a lot of ways we don't really have words for what you're describing. It's something that it's sort of embodied, that level of freedom. You can just feel like those cortisols just dropping. You can feel the sense of I feel free here in my autonomy. Like I can show up as myself and not as something else. And as you
Yes.
were talking about that container where you're not so contained and you're in that element or that solid ground and everything just becomes freedom. And it makes me think about as we're talking about both belonging and freedom, the word fly. Where did the word fly come from in all of this?
Max, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I think Evan actually kind of summed it up nicely last night in our Q&A at our premiere in New York here last night that we had. But you know, flying is like it can be applied to anything. It's just like this metaphor for success in whatever you are throwing yourself into. You know, we all want to get off the ground in some capacity. Um, you know, whether that's personal ambition or some sort of life goals that you have. You know, there's this association with flying being kind of a euphemism for freedom, like you were just discussing. So I think learning to fly is like, you know, there's the kind of physical like reality of it feeling like flight when you get into this um flow state as a runner. I mean, Aisha can probably maybe speak to that more than me. Having committed herself to doing these like big marathons, ultra marathons, but you know, from my perspective, it was more about this idea of like finding success in whatever you throw yourself into, and finding that levity in the success that you can and will find if you just set yourself on the journey.
It's amazing. You know, Aisha, while I was watching Learn to Fly, I was taken away by how you became this larger than life figure to me on screen. And I was like, wow, she's such a, hero. Like, look at her. Like, she's just exploring all her vulnerabilities. She's traveling the world, stepping up, being in people's stories. And, I was very moved. I was even moved to tears. And I was telling Max that. And, I want to ask, how do you stay rooted in this part of you that you just stepped into yourself, where you can share that part with, human beings, girls around the world who are curious of how they can tap into that part of themselves and show up in the world without needing to seek validation in a selfish or even selfless way, simply just knowing that you're on that path.
I think like, I mean, I've talked a little bit about I think it's so important for any particularly like talking about women, it's so important to hold space and to take up space as a woman. Um and I think as a child I was kind of felt the need to um like not take up space, to try and be as in a sense like small as possible, or as un you know, to just not disrupt, not create not create ripples. But I also think like I was born naturally a feisty person and a very passionate person. I think I do see myself as a very empathetic person. I feel really big. And I think for a while I thought, oh, that's like this is now I've kind of grown to understand that's a superpower. And I think that's what is a strength in my photography. And that's like when I invest in my subjects, it is a full feeling and presence there. Um, but yeah, I think that it's like again, it feels like it when you're surrounding like oftentimes I try and surround myself with people that I truly care and love. And I think I've been really fortunate enough through this project even to develop really strong relationships with some of those athletes that I worked with where, I don't consider them to be subjects that I'm working on a project. I consider them true friends. And I think even more so this past year, I've just been really leaning into, we talk about the sense of belonging, leaning into my community and holding space for them and with them. And I think that allows me to recharge, to reground, and be able to show up on these like larger scales and not necessarily um, to just fully be present when I can have the time with those communities and people that are really fulfilling and grounding to me. I think we all have that, and we all have things that we do to like come back to our true beings and our true selves.
Wow, I mean, I just want to thank the two of you really for keeping yourselves in this process and just having this authentic feeling in all of it. I think that's the hardest thing to stay within sometimes, especially on both ends of the interviewer interviewee. And and I see so much of my own self in just witnessing the two of you and Evan, and I appreciate very much you two for everything that you do. And thank you for giving us here at the Inner World of Emotions at Dr. Freddie's office an opportunity to feel the two of you. I mean, truly, I think so many people look for ways in which they can tap into this side of themselves. And sometimes they just need to hear it and experience it from those on the other side, what that feels and looks like. And so thank you for giving us an opportunity to be a part of what you're feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for supporting the project and hearing us and yeah.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank
Very
you,
much
Max.
appreciated.
Really appreciate it.